So, first exercise. As I mentioned previously, you need to pay attention to the fact that we are talking about a firm under perfect competition. If you recall the previous lecture where I gave classification of different market structures, you should recall that there are 4 different types of markets: perfect competition, monopolistic competition, oligopoly, and monopoly. And they're separated into these types according to several criteria. One of these criteria is whether the firm is price taker or price maker. I'm going to explain this in a little bit more details. Perfectly competitive company is a company which is price taker. In perfect competition, there is infinite number of very, very tiny companies, each with infinitesimally small part of the market, very tiny market share. In other words, each of these competitive companies doesn't have any role in the market. It doesn't have any effect on the price. It cannot set its own price because its share of the market is so small that it cannot really influence consumers to buy their product. There are many alternative suppliers, and it is easy to consumers to switch away to different other companies, to different suppliers, if the firm tries to overcharge them, if it tries to charge them above the going price in the market. Apart from this, another feature of perfectly competitive market is that their products are homogeneous, which means the same, identical. Every company supplies the same products. Think cucumbers, the easiest possible example. We cannot see branded cucumbers. They don't exist. All cucumbers are basically the same. Whether you go to Asda or Sainsbury or Morrison's, they will be the same cucumbers. There might be another type of cucumbers which is organic, but you wouldn't be able to separate, to distinguish between organic Tesco and organic Sainsbury cucumbers. Could you? You can't. They're the same, which means that if Tesco, for example, tries to overcharge you for their cucumbers, you will start buying cucumbers elsewhere. Right? The same if you go to the open market and try to buy apples or carrots or something like this. If one seller tries to charge you the higher price than anyone else, you will simply go and buy it elsewhere. In other words, in perfect competition, firms are unable to set their own price. They are price takers. They take the existing price in the market as given to them. They will need to sell their products at this existing price. This also means that demand curve in a perfectly competitive industry is horizontal. So let me just draw a little sketch. The whole market will look like this: traditional demand and supply. Sorry for me turning backwards to you. I just need to try and draw to my computer, and the connection with the cables is not really good, so I don't want to move it. So if we talk about the whole market, it will look in a normal traditional way, the whole market. We have quantity, we have price, we have downward slope in demand and supply. And there will be equilibrium price established in this particular market depending on number of consumers and number of sellers. But this supply, in fact, consists of individual supplies of different companies. So it will be equal to supply by each individual company, shown by little s, times number of companies in the market. And similarly, the total quantity in the market will consist of individual little quantities produced by each individual firm times number of firms. Right? Yeah? Which also means that if we consider an individual firm a representative firm in the market, and we look at individual quantities supplied by this company and their price, they will need to take the price from the market as given to them. This is an equilibrium price, and they cannot affect it. So strictly speaking, they will sell all their units at the same going price. So for example, for cucumbers, it will be, let's say, 50p per each. And because their market share is so small compared to total market, they can sell all their cucumbers at this price. They cannot sell their cucumbers higher because everyone will switch away and buy them elsewhere. And there is no point for them to reduce the price either, because why would we drop the price? To convince consumers to buy more. But consumers are buying all our cucumbers anyway, because our capacity is so small compared to total demand that we don't need to reduce the price. We're able to sell everything at the going price. We are very tiny suppliers compared to the whole market. So if we want to sell one cucumber, we will be able to sell it at 50p. If we want to sell 1,000 cucumbers, we will be able to sell them at 50p. And even if we want to sell 1,000,000 cucumbers, or as much as we can physically produce, we'll still be able able to sell them at the same price. We don't need to drop the price. In other words, for an individual company, for a representative firm, demand curve will look like a horizontal line. So demand curve faced by an individual company, a firm, rather than the whole market, will be horizontal, and it will actually be equal to price. So there will be a difference between total market, where demand is normal, downward sloping, and the graph for the actual individual competitive firm, where demand will be shown as a horizontal straight line. Because demand is just equal to price, in our case, it will also be equal to average revenue, because each cucumber generates 50p for us. Per item, our revenue is 50p, average revenue is 50p. And it will also be equal to marginal revenue, because each additional cucumber will generate 50p of additional income for us. Marginal revenue is additional income which we generate from selling one extra unit of output. Because we charge 50p per each cucumber, marginal revenue will also be equal to price, 50p. And what is important is that this is the unique feature of perfect competition. This is how you can distinguish perfect competition from other types of markets. In perfect competition, price is equal to marginal revenue. Each cucumber generates the same additional revenue, which is equal to price. While in other markets, price will be greater than marginal revenue. This is because in other markets, demand will look like a downward sloping line. In order to sell more, sellers will need to reduce the price, which means that marginal revenue will be downward sloping too, and it will be lower than demand. Because we are reducing the price, we'll be able to generate less income from selling each additional unit. So marginal revenue will be lower than demand. So this is how you can differentiate perfect competition and graph for perfect competition from other markets. And today we'll look at both cases, and I will teach you how to draw graphs correctly, how to find profit maximizing level of output in all scenarios. So in our case, we have a perfectly competitive firm. So that is why we know that demand and price line will be the same. So we'll simply need to draw a price line at the level of price which is relevant for us. So let's have a look at the actual question. We are told that it faces a market price of £8 per unit. We need to draw average revenue and marginal revenue curves. So basically that's very simple. We simply draw a price line at £8. So this is our demand, this is our price, this is our average revenue and marginal revenue too. And all is equal to £8. This is our first price, price 1. Okay, so this is the starting point. So this was the answer to question B. So we need to draw average revenue and marginal revenue curve. So simply draw a straight line at £8. Could you please do this in your workbooks now, because we'll need to continue with the rest of the graphs. So sketch it now. And if you have different pens, different colors, I recommend that you use different colors for different parts of this exercise. So for now, use one color, and I'll tell you when to change the color. You will be able to understand it better with different colors. Question A asked you about a level of output at which diminishing returns set in. Strictly speaking, the idea of diminishing returns, let me just go back. The idea of diminishing returns is that each additional unit each additional worker or additional input, variable input, which you add to the production process will generate less and less additional output. If you recall previous seminar, if you went through this recording, you might recall the table where we've had different number of workers and different level of output, which corresponded to these different like hiring levels, staffing levels. The more workers we hire, the more we're able to produce. But there will be a point beyond which each additional worker will produce less and less. So the productivity of new workers will be less compared to what we used to have. For example, we've had 5 workers and each of them produced something like 25 units of output. When we had the 6th worker, he manages to produce only 20 units of output. So our total will increase by 20 units. When we had the 7th worker, he will generate 15 extra units of output, so even less. And eventually we reached the point where the 10th worker, which we've hired, didn't generate any output at all. Output remained unchanged. So this is the idea of diminishing returns. The more people we hire, the less productive they can become after a certain point. So this is the point where diminishing returns set in. What does it mean for us, for our diagram, for our curves? When diminishing returns are active, it implies that each worker produces less but still costs us money. In the previous exercise, in the previous seminar, each worker cost us £10 per day. So we pay him £10, but he produces much less than his fellow workers, his teammates. So we pay him the same amount, but he produces less, which means that the cost per unit produced by this worker are much higher compared to what we had before. In other words, our marginal costs, additional costs of producing extra output, go up. The more workers we hire, the less productive they become. They still require paying their wages, but they produce much less. So the costs per each additional unit are increasing. And in our case, it will be this point on the diagram. So approximately 13 units. If we produce about 13 units of output, beyond this point, you can see that marginal cost will start to go up. Marginal costs start to accelerate. We produce more items and it costs us more per each item because productivity of each worker is declining beyond 13 units of output. So the point where diminishing returns kick in is 13 units of output. The point of minimum of marginal cost beyond which they start to increase. So this would be the answer to question A. Any questions at this stage? All production in short run is governed by this law of diminishing returns. So for majority of companies, for majority of technologies, I would say productive processes, this is what will happen. So majority of firms will operate along an upward sloping marginal cost curve. So this is kind of a law in economics, one of our basic concepts in economics, diminishing returns. Okay, next question. We continue with our profit maximization. Okay, question C. Continue with the same color, please. The same color which we used to draw the line. How much will the firm produce in order to maximize profits at this particular price? Okay, so as I explained in the lecture, our profit maximization condition is MC equals to MR. This is the basic and most important rule in microeconomics. In order to maximize profit, we need to produce at the point where marginal revenue equals to marginal cost. If you produce at any other point, it implies that you can improve your profitability by changing your production level. If marginal revenue is greater or less than marginal cost, it means that you can increase or reduce output and you will do better. It means that your production level is not optimal. Well, if you produce at this point where marginal revenue equals to marginal cost, you cannot do any better than this. You are at the best possible scenario already. You cannot reduce or increase production in order to increase your profit. This is the best you can do. So in order to find this profit maximizing level of output, you simply need to find the point where marginal revenue crosses marginal cost line. So it's very simple. Marginal cost line is shown by this red line. Here it is. And marginal revenue line is shown by our price, £8. They cross at this particular point. Let's call it point A. So point A will determine our profit maximizing level of output. If our price is equal to £8, if we are facing this particular going price in the market, we will maximize our profit by selling this amount of units, 70 units in this particular case, 70 units. So the answer to question C, when price is equal to £8, to maximize profit, quantity should be equal to 70 units. Yeah? Are you with me? Okay, next question. Next questions D and E. How much will its average cost of production be at this output? And how much supernormal profit it will make? So let's go back to our graph. Average cost when output is equal to 70 will be shown by our average cost curve. So let's have a look at the average cost curve. It's this blue line, right? Let me use black. So average cost is our blue line. So it's a U-shaped curve. And if we produce 70 units of output, our average cost will be equal to this amount, which is £6. Average cost 1. pounds. So we simply find a point where our average cost curve crosses the level of output which we require. If output is 70 units, then average cost will be equal to 6 pounds. Are you with me? Yeah. And now let's calculate profit. So now we are asked to calculate profit for this possible level of output for 70 units. Profit in this particular graph will be shown by this shaded rectangle. I'll explain why this is the case. 1 second. So this is our profit. Why is this profit? Profit is equal to the profit which we make per unit. So it's price minus average cost times number of units. So have a look. This difference represents profit per unit. So it's average profit per unit. We sell our products at 8 pounds, but it cost us 6 pounds to make. We've spent 6 pounds to produce these items and we've sold them at 8 pounds, which means that our average profit per unit is 2 pounds per each unit. How many units do we make? We make 70 units, right? So this difference is 8 minus 6, 2 pounds. Quantity is 70 units, which implies that we are making 140 pounds profit. So profit is calculated as average profit per unit, price minus average cost. So this is per unit times number of units, right? So it will be 8 minus 6, which is 2, times 70. So it's 140 pounds. This is the profit which we've made, and this is the best we can do in this particular situation. If you draw these curves and everything correctly, so this is how your profit will look like. I will upload this file to Moodle, so you will have access to all this information, so you will be able to refer to this. Any questions? No? So first step is to find profit maximizing level of output, determine your quantity first, and you find the point A, which is the point where your marginal cost crosses marginal revenue. This will determine your optimal level of output. Price is given, you found the quantity, you know what the average cost will be, you determine how much it will cost you based on your average cost curve, then you find the difference between price and average cost and multiply this by number of units which you've decided to make. This will be your profit maximizing level of output if price is equal to 8. Okay? Yeah, clear? Okay, let's move on. I'm starting another page, and I recommend that you change the color now. Similar question 1, price is equal to 5 pounds. Price now drops. So next question, how much will the firm produce in order to maximize profit if price is equal to 5? You will have to stay with the same graph, and I will just copy it again. Okay. Now our price is 5 pounds, so please use another color. The process is absolutely the same as before, but the result will be different. So first of all, our price is 5 pounds. Our price. This is the price set by the market. There is nothing we can do about it. So we are taking this price as given, and this will represent our demand, which is just equal to price, which will be equal to our average revenue, and it is equal to our marginal revenue. To make it easier for you, label this as price 2. Demand 2, price 2, average revenue 2, and marginal revenue 2. Our second scenario. Now we'll need to determine a new profit optimizing level of output. As before, profit maximization condition will remain unchanged. So maximum profit, as before, is achieved at the point where marginal revenue equals to marginal cost. This condition always stands. It's always the case. So let's find this. Marginal cost is shown by this red line. Marginal revenue is shown by this black price line. Where do they cross? They cross here. So this is our profit maximizing point. This is our equilibrium for this perfectly competitive firm. Our point A or point B, you can call it point B maybe. We've had A before, so on the same graph, this will be point B. How much do we produce at point B? 50 units. In other words, this will be our new profit maximizing level of output. Let's call it Q2 for simplicity. So the answer to the next question will be Q2. So the question G, when price is equal to 5 pounds, to maximize profit, your level of output should be equal to 50 units. So the process is absolutely the same. You just apply this idea that profit is maximized at the point where marginal revenue equals to marginal cost. And the most important here is to distinguish between perfectly competitive firm with horizontal demand and all other types of markets where demand will be downward slope. And we'll come back to this a bit later in this seminar. Okay, next questions. So we've done this. How much supernormal will it make? So question H. Have a look. To determine profit, we'll need to find the difference between costs and revenue. So we use the same formula. It's average cost per unit it's price minus profit is equal to price per unit minus cost per unit. So this is our profit per unit times Q times number of units, how many units we've produced. Price in our case is equal to £5. What is average cost? Average cost are shown by our blue line, by our average cost line. And as you can see here, when we produce 50 units of output, average cost is equal to £5. So this is also equal to average cost. In other words, we sell our products at £5 and it costs us to make these products to £5. So we sell them at 5 and we sell them at 5. In other words, our profit per unit is equal to 0. We don't make any supernormal profit at this particular level of output, at this price. We are just covering our costs. How many units we make? 50 units. What is our profit? 0. Price is just equal to marginal cost. Profit is equal to 0 since price is just equal to average cost. In other words, we are facing the situation which is called break-even point. It's a break-even point. We're just covering the cost of production. Our profit is 0. So point B in this particular scenario is a break-even point. Situation where average cost is equal to price or total cost are equal to revenue. So our profit is equal to 0. Does it make sense to operate at this point? Might be tricky. Yes, it does. Why is that? Because we make 0 supernormal or abnormal profit, which means that we don't make any more than normal. But the thing is, our normal profit is still made. We've still earned as much as everyone else. So what is important here is that normal profit is still made, which means that it's quite a good situation to be in fact. So break-even point doesn't mean that you are not earning anything. It means that you are earning normal profit only. You are earning the norm for your industry. You are earning as much as everyone else. You are covering your normal profit. 0 profit implies that you are not earning any supernormal, any profit on top of this. For example, if everyone in your industry is earning 10% return on capital, you are earning 10% return on capital at your break-even point. It simply means that you are not earning 15 or 20. You're not doing better than anyone else, but you are doing as well as everyone else. You are still earning as much as you would be able to earn elsewhere, which means that you can stay in this business, you can operate in this business for as much as you like, because in any other alternative activity, you wouldn't do any better. This is the norm. This is what you would earn. The illustration which I gave you in the lecture is that you have a choice, for example, to go and get a paid job or start up your own business. You graduate from BCU and you can go and find some job for a company, or you can start your own business. In any case, you would be able to earn, let's say, £20,000 per year. So your salary would be £20,000 per year, and your net profit from your business would be £20,000 per year. You are indifferent between these two activities. You are not better off in any of these scenarios. This is your normal profit. If your business generates 25,000, it means that you've made 20,000 of normal profit plus 5,000 of supernormal or abnormal profit on top. You're doing better than your classmates, for example. If your business generated only 15,000, in your accountancy books, it will look like profit. But for an economist, it implies that you've made £5,000 economic loss. Why is that? Because you would be £5,000 better off elsewhere. It doesn't make sense to operate in a business which generates you less than you would be able to earn elsewhere. In this particular scenario, you are operating at a loss. You are losing £5,000 per year by doing this business. You would be better off by returning to your paid employment, and you would be able to earn £5,000 more. So 20,000 would be your normal profit. So in this example, in this illustration, in this scenario, break-even point implies that you are covering your normal profit. For an economist, we are covering normal profit as a part of your average cost. So this average cost include your normal profit. So you are paying to your suppliers, you are paying to your staff, you are paying for your raw materials, you are paying to the bank, to the landlord, and you pay to yourself. So average cost will include your normal profitability, your normal markup, your normal margin. So that's why it's okay to operate at point B, at your break-even point. Okay? And in fact, what we'll learn later is that in perfect competition, there is no chance for you to earn more than this in the long run. The thing is, another feature of a perfectly competitive market is that there are no entry barriers to this industry. So everyone can start growing cucumbers. If cucumber industry suddenly becomes super profitable, if you can make much more profit by growing cucumbers than doing anything else, everyone will start growing cucumbers. Because you can relocate your capital, your activities in a most profitable activity. If it's so profitable, very many other people will start doing the same thing, which means that supply will increase. So if we go back to the previous graph, let me use the green, which means that supply will increase and price will drop, which will eliminate your profit. As supply, if number of companies in the market starts to increase, which will happen in the long run, when new businesses will start doing the same thing, supply will increase, price will drop, and as a result, your profit will be eliminated. So the price will start declining until it will reach the point where only where companies are just breaking even. As long as price is above than £5, new entrants will keep entering the market, keep competing your profit away, and eventually they will only stop starting producing cucumbers until the price settles at £5. When price is 5, there is no incentive for them to move into the industry and will reach steady state equilibrium, and everyone will be making the same profit as everyone else. So you will make the same profit making cucumbers or carrots or operating an accountancy practice, etc. Okay? So that's an idea. That's an explanation of the break-even point and explanation of the difference between normal and supernormal profit. In economics, we always talk about supernormal profit. This is what we are trying to get. This is what we are trying to maximize. We are trying to earn more than everyone else. We assume that normal profit is made in any case, because otherwise there is no point operating this business. Okay? Okay, so now let's do another. So switch the color again, please, and if you can, or if not, you can use different shading or different maybe type of lines, maybe use dotted line or something like this. So let me just, you know what, try to do the next exercise yourself, and I will prepare this and I will show you. Just try to do it yourself and see what will happen. Try to work out the profit at price equal to 3. See what happens. Anyone manage to do this? Okay, let's have a look. When price is equal to 3, we proceed using the same technique. We draw our price line. Let's call it price 3. So this will be our price 3 pounds. So this is our price 3, demand 3, marginal or average revenue 3, and marginal revenue 3. And strictly speaking, this is the only situation when we wouldn't follow MC equals to MR rule. Why is that? Because our price is below average variable cost of production. So have a look. For any range of output, no matter how much we choose to produce, we will always be located along or below green curve AVC. Curve AVC shows us average variable cost of production. It shows us our avoidable costs. It shows us how much we need to spend per each unit of output, right? And for any range of possible levels of output, cost of materials will be higher than the going price in the market. For example, it costs you £3 to produce your cucumbers, but it costs you, let's say, minimum of £3.50. This is your minimum of average variable cost. The minimum you can charge is £3.50 to cover your cost of production. Minimum average cost, £3.50 approximately here. But you can only sell your cucumbers at £3 at best. What does it mean? It means that you are making at least 50p losses per each cucumber you make. Minimum. And the more you make, the more losses you will incur. Because if you make one cucumber, if you sell one cucumber at a loss of 50p, your total losses will be 50p. If you make 1,000,000 cucumbers, it will be 50p times 1,000,000. So the more you make, the more losses you will suffer. Plus, you will suffer a loss of your total fixed cost, which is unavoidable, which you'll have to pay anyway. Which means that in this scenario, when price drops below minimum of average variable cost, you need to shut down production altogether. Your optimum level of output, so optimum output in this scenario, will be equal to 0 units. Shut down situation. It's a shutdown situation. Strictly speaking, this point of minimum average cost is the shutdown point. It's the shutdown point. As I mentioned in previous seminars, when I explained the shape of cost curves, I told you that these points have a minimum, have a meaning. So all these points have some economic meaning. So for example, this point, point B, which we've covered already, is the break-even point. And this point is the shutdown point. It means that if price drops below this level, there is no possible profitable level of output. There is no way you can generate a profit when price is so low. You would be better off shutting down production altogether. So instead of operating somewhere along your marginal cost line, instead of choosing some point where marginal cost crosses your marginal revenue, you would go to 0 straight away. In this case, your total loss will be equal to total fixed cost. These are unavoidable for you. You will have to pay them regardless. For example, your rent. If you hire some land from a farmer to grow your cucumbers, you will need to pay your rent in any case, even if you don't grow any cucumbers. But if you grow cucumbers, if you keep working on this land and growing cucumbers at a loss, the more you make, the more losses you will suffer. So you would be better off just paying fixed cost and that's it. You minimize your losses by cutting down production to 0. So the meaning of this point is the shutdown point. When price drops below this level, so any output, any price level below 350, drop your production to 0, shut down altogether. So the answer would be 0, and your total loss here would be equal to total fixed cost. To summarize, if you go back to this graph, let's have a look at these points again. So our point A was a break-even point. It's a point where average cost is equal to price, £5. Average cost shown by blue line is 5, and price is 5. Average cost is equal to price, it's 5. That's our break-even point, point B. If the price is above break-even point, you will make a supernormal profit. If price is just equal to 5, you are just covering your cost of production, including normal profit. This point is the shutdown point. In this scenario, it will be 350. If price is below 350, shut down. Average variable cost is equal to 350. Shut down production altogether. The optimal level of output will be 0. So in this case, Q will go to 0 straight away. And for other prices above, you can produce along your marginal cost line at a point where marginal revenue equals to marginal cost. By doing so, you will be able to generate maximum possible return from your business. So maximum possible profit or minimum losses in case if you're not covering your cost of production. Does it make sense to operate at this point? No. Should you keep your business open? No. The problem is in the short run, you are stuck with your fixed cost, which you have to pay regardless. In the long run, you can vary the amount of capital. You will be able to get rid of this business, and you will just close down the business. You don't announce bankruptcy. You simply shut it down altogether. So when your tenancy agreement with your landlord expires, so for example, you have a contract for 12 months. After this, you just don't extend your contract, and you don't have any fixed cost. So you keep paying your fixed cost only in the short term until your contracts expire. After you've finished fulfilling your contractual obligations, you are not responsible for any extra costs, and your losses stop. So you can move on to some other business. Okay, that's an idea. And there are some other questions here. Let me just go through them. So we've answered this. How much will the firm produce to make profit when price is 3? Nothing. What will be its profit position now? It's a total loss of fixed cost. Let me just show you the answers. So this is the graph which we've drawn originally. This is our second scenario, second graph, break-even point. And this is what we are covering now. What is profit position now? Loss of fixed cost if we are in a shutdown point. Below what price would the firm shut down in the short run? 350, minimum of average variable cost. Below what price would the firm shut down in the long run? It's interesting. Below what price should you shut down in the long run? below £5. Why is that? Because it's your break-even point. £5 implies that you are covering all your cost of production and your normal profit. If price drops below 5, it means that you are not making your normal profit. You are not covering the revenue, you're not covering the profit which you would be able to earn elsewhere, which means that this business doesn't make any sense. In the long run, you are not stuck with any particular costs. You're not stuck with any capital which you need to pay for, which means that you can move on and do something else. If your current profit is less than what you could earn elsewhere, you should go elsewhere. So when price drops below 5 in the long run, then you should shut down. If you're not making even normal profit, there is no point having this business. Okay,